Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 134 of the Terminal City FC podcast, part of the Area 51 Sports Network. Joshua Ray joined alongside Nathan Durek as per usual. And uh, apologies for people watching on the live broadcast. You can't see my face. Something's up with my camera. I don't know it's working, but it won't work here.
You're
It was
stuck
working.
with this.
Yeah, we're stuck with this. It was working 5 minutes ago when I set it up. I don't know what happened, but bear with us. So, getting on to business, the Vancouver Whitecaps have won two straight games after a very lackluster month of May. Not not perfect by any means, but getting 2 points heading into this break is big.
Sartini said that his team needed a shock, and we'll start with Sporting KC. They delivered one. We had a brand new formation, still maintained the principles of what Sartini wants to play. It's zonal, back three, everything that we talked about last week. But we ended up having more of a 3-5-2, which I think there was a lot more positive from this, and it seemed to be better for particular players. I would like to point out especially is Simon Berhalter.
Yeah, Berhalter was everywhere against Sporting Kansas City. Made some big tackles, especially in that first half. And there was one chance where Sporting Kansas City were on the transition, and he just made a game-saving last-second tackle. Because the Whitecaps did not start off well in that game. Kind of slow and kind of hard for them to maintain the SKC press, but they got better as the game went on.
It took them a while to get used to what it is they were doing. And again, we're still in this busy May schedule. Games are just coming fast and furious. It's not like they really had a whole lot of time to work in this transition. But if you're going to do it, doing it to a team like Kansas City with how poor that they've been doing so far, it was a good moment to test, right? Because you can
Right.
test it there, and then you can come back home and actually have a little bit of time on your hands with this new system if you decide to continue it on. Yeah, good win, good road win. Gold jumped on the end, and it was also the first open play goal since that Red Bull game where Brian White broke the Whitecaps goal scoring record. First one was a very interesting one, a long throw from Javane Brown that ended up kind of ping-ponging its way to Gold off I think it was a bad clearance, and he was able to jump up and capitalize.
Yeah, it was a bad clearance, and Gall just made the most of it. And his second goal late in the second half, poor pass from Leboff, and he just goes all the way and gets his brace.
Yeah, I don't know. We talked to Ryan after the game was finished about that, and it almost seemed like he was expecting that back pass, and that's why he started his run, was on the off chance that if that pass comes through, he's there to intercept it. And he likes to say he got lucky. I think the intuition and the intelligence that he has on the pitch definitely played a hand into that.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, the Sporting Kansas City made it interesting late. With a just the defending kind of fell asleep there, but in the end, the Whitecaps got the win at Children's Mercy Park, and the 3-5-2. It worked in the first game, especially with Berhalter and Schaff higher
Yeah.
up the pitch. But it was 3 days later against Colorado. Same formation. It wasn't their best game, but in the end, they got the 3 points, which matters most.
There was a few position squad changes. Shop came out. Vite came in. I think there was a few others as well. Back line. I think, was this the game where they had Laborda in the middle?
Yep, they did.
Yep.
And it looked really shaky in the middle because he's not known for playing in the middle. He's more out wide.
He did play in the middle for the most recent Canadian Championship game. And again, I agree with you. He didn't look too comfortable in that role as well. We were talking about this, you and I think, and a few others in and around. There is no real substitute for Renko Veselinovic and what he does. There's
Right.
no one that can fit into that middle slot as effective as he does. So, and the thing is there's no one on the Whitecaps who plays more minutes than Renko Veselinovic other than Yohei Takioka, who is your goalkeeper, and you expect him to.
Right.
You need to give Veselinovic a break now and then. So finding someone who can take that role, I think, is quite important. My surprise is that you didn't throw someone back there like Bjorn Utvik. I thought that would have been the more likely of choices.
Yeah, it could have played Laborda out wide and Utvik in the middle because of Utvik's aerial ability, and Laborda doesn't have the best aerial ability. And it was rare to see Renko Veselinovic get a night off, and I get resting him.
Yeah, I think it's important to do, especially when you're playing this many games in what they had 9 games in all of May or something like that.
Yeah, and even he looked fatigued. In that game, like first 10 minutes, it was all Colorado, but they couldn't create anything other than the Laborda error that led to a chance, but Takaoka made the save. A near penalty call, but thanks to VAR, the player fell on his own. Forgot who it was exactly. And for the Whitecaps, just more of that create the perfect play instead of just shooting, because there was hardly any shots on Zach Steffen in the first half.
And Steffen's a goalkeeper you can absolutely take shots on. Since he has come back from Europe, he has not looked good.
Not at all. And like the underlying numbers show he's one of the worst keepers in the MLS.
Right now, you take a look at Colorado. Colorado has let in 31 goals. They're sitting in 8th in like that first kind of wild card playoff play-in spot, but their goal difference is negative, which is not what you'd expect, even being that high up the table, being kind of in the middle of the park.
Yeah, and also give credit to Yohei Takaoka for making big saves off Cabral and Yapi, because in that first half it looked pretty sleepy from the back three of Blackman, Laborda, and Brown, but Takaoka was there to make the big saves. And all season, other than the game against LAFC, Takaoka has consistently held his ground as the number 1 keeper.
You wrote about this only a few days ago about the underlying numbers of what Takioka has done this year. He's one of the top, I believe, in shot stopping and also for stopping goal creations.
Yeah, like goals prevented. It's a football stat. It's kind of like I would say it's kind of like the soccer equivalent of goals save above expected if you're a hockey fan. Yeah. And Takaoka is second behind the New York City FC goalkeeper. Forgot his name. His names keep escaping me.
Yeah. But now the one thing that is a little bit worrying about that is, yes, it's great that your goalkeeper can do that, but the goal is that they shouldn't have to do that. And a lot of that is because of the number of shots Takioka has to face every game, right? I think those numbers I think the defense has gotten better. I think Utvik has been a welcome addition, but I think right now, if you're going with your best 3, you've got to go Blackman, Veselinovic, and Utvik. I think Laborda needs an extended period just
to reset.
Like I said, it was a couple of weeks ago now, I think. If you had a chance, Third Sub, check them out. They wrote an interesting article kind of evaluating a little bit of Laborda, talking about how he's a very aggressive.
Yeah, that's the thing. He
likes when you unshackle him, he's freed up and he gets out of his head. Right now, he's not playing to his what suits his nature. And that's nothing against him, but you do wonder, does he fit within what the Whitecaps setup is right now? I don't know,
because
right?
It's good that he's aggressive, but there are times when he's too aggressive. Like against Colorado, you saw him way up the pitch when he was supposed to be back.
Yeah.
And he's good at tackling, but there are times where his tackles just get really too aggressive and he gets booked.
Like I said, he's the Christian Romero of the Whitecaps.
Except he doesn't really get sent off often.
No, yeah, Romero might get a few more. Did you see the video? I think it was Christian Romero, and I can't remember what other Spurs player, but they were playing themselves on FIFA, and
Yeah.
Romero actually got his online Romero sent off.
I didn't see that.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, but this Laporta in the middle. Also, as I said, he doesn't have the aerial ability because he doesn't have the height for it.
No, he doesn't.
He's short. He's like what, 5'8", 5'9"?
I think he can work as a wide center back, but
That's where
he needs to get
his natural
zonal in
position.
his head.
Yeah.
He needs to get zonal in his head if you're going to work in the system, because zonal only works if all
Players
10
are-
outfield players are actually pulling the same way.
Oh, Laporta's 6 foot, but
Is he?
still, yeah. I thought he was shorter than that, but he's still not
Wow.
great in the air.
That actually puts him as one of the taller players on the team, because I think Veselinovic is the tallest at like 6'1",
6'2", yeah.
6'2". Yeah.
And thankfully, after that pretty lackluster first half for not just the Whitecaps, for both teams, they got on the board. Gall's ball found the aforementioned Berhalter, who got his first of the season. Pretty good redirect. And good to see Berhalter not only score, but he's improved since the early parts of the season.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. Beginning of the season wasn't as easy for him, and I think the one thing is when you're in and out of the lineup, right?
He was played at wing back at times, so
well,
that didn't help.
He's been a 6, he's been an 8, he's been a wing back. These last 2 games, he was basically a 10, right? So he's been all over the place, and I think that's commendable. One that you tell me what to do, I'll go and do it. He's the ultimate kind of squad guy you want, but it helps the player individually to find consistency in a specific role. The last 2 games, he played the same position, played the same way, and I think overall the Whitecaps benefited because of that. His goal in this game was a classic example of that. Good play, actually, though. For this one, it was begun by Luis Martins.
Yeah, who also I thought had a pretty good game with his vision and crosses, passes, and his defending wasn't that bad either.
He had a good first half. Yes, he was good on this goal, which happened in the first minute. But when the Whitecaps did some changes, they dropped him back to that wide center back position, and at that point, it kind of went a little bit iffy on
sideways,
him. Yeah. So you know where you need to play Luis Martins if you're using him.
Yeah, but fortunately, after Berhalter scored, the former Montreal guy Dordy Mihalovic.
Yeah.
He just pretty much went in behind the defense, and Cabral or it was Yappy who made the ball, passed the ball, and he beat Takaoka. Yeah. And the defense just disappeared.
It was again. You don't want to put anything on the goalkeeper there, because you need your first line of defense. You need your second line of defense. Yeah, you need someone to actually help you out.
Yeah, but as the game went on, it was like the Whitecaps did control the play, but again, that final third.
We were trying to find a word to describe this game while it was happening, and I was trying to be tactful while we're doing it, and the only word I could come up with was lackluster.
I think that's the best word to describe that game.
It was just, for long stretches of this game, you can see them trying to stretch the game horizontally.
Yeah.
But there was nothing. There's nothing going forward.
And there were some pretty poor giveaways from a number of players in that second half. And Colorado thankfully whiffed on their chances.
And the thing is Colorado wasn't a shining beacon of football either, right? Like it just, both teams kind of.
It was a slog for both games.
Yeah, it was a little bit. But I mean, credits to the man coming back from the injury, Damir Kreilach.
Yeah, and again, this is what he was signed for. Not to be the player he once was as a consistent starter, but a guy to come off the bench. And I don't know about you, I think that was the slowest game-winning goal I have ever seen.
I've seen some pretty slow ones, but yeah, that would be up there.
Goals,
and do you know what's interesting about this one again? Another Brown long throw.
Yeah, again.
Like the game before, this one as well.
Yeah, it comes from Brown's long throw, just like the game against Sporting Kansas City. Gall's shot, again, hits Kreilach first. And then Kreilach got it past Zach Steffen. It just squeaks under him
I know.
and goes into the net. And you know how in sports films they have like the winning goal, they slow it down and there's dramatic music playing. That's literally how it was like.
And you've got like the timer in the corner to show that it's like counting down from 5, 4, 3.
Yeah,
and it crosses the line like just before.
That's what it
felt
like.
very much like that, right?
Right, and again, the Whitecaps got the win. It wasn't great, but they got the win and sit 5th in the Western Conference as it stands with 25 points.
Not only that, but they're only 3 points out of 3rd. And the Whitecaps have been talking about kind of hitting that top 4, and that top 4 should be what they're fighting for.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, the Galaxy hold the 4th. They're 3 points ahead of them. Galaxy have a game in hand. So if that game in hand is another win, you can argue that the Whitecaps are well within where they were wanting to be.
Minnesota is also 28 points, but they played 1 game less than the Whitecaps. And the Whitecaps are actually 5 points behind the second, LAFC.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because last week we were talking about some of the individuals that were starting to question whether or not a managerial change was needed. I thought
it was too early.
I thought it was too early too. I mean, it was one like I can understand some people having the conversation, but it was like one of those conversations in dark corners. I think if you look at the season where it was a great beginning, a horrible month, hopefully a turning, that's why we're talking about it, because it was done in these weird stages. If this record of 7, 4, and 5 of the Whitecaps had been more staggered out, the 7 wins were kind of here, there, and everywhere, we would have never had the conversation. It would have been just like, okay, they're trucking along, they're keeping their pace, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird one. The one thing I liked is, I think a year ago, especially 2 years ago, we wouldn't have had this change. I think Vanny has softened his tone a little bit, especially on wingers, but also on adapting everything beyond the principles that are unimpeachable, right? The things that he will not change because that is, in his mind, how football must be played. And we talked about that last week, what those principles are. I am happy that he's willing to do that.
Yeah, so am I. And it's not going to change the zonal marking system, but he changes the way it is constructed so it could work better. That's the right term to put it. And so far, it's working. It hasn't been the greatest. And like Gull looks more dynamic up front. That's where he played most of last season. Brian White still hasn't gotten going.
Yeah.
As he looked pretty isolated against Colorado. He felt like he barely touched the ball because he wasn't getting much service. But he had 2 misses. One that set off the goal cannons, which caused them to malfunction.
Yeah, exactly right. They had technicians running to fix it.
But again, let's not harp on Brian White too much because we've seen that once he gets out of a slump, he's unstoppable.
He fires. He's a streaky guy, and that's fine. Yeah. You know that. He knows that. The hope is that he's just not getting in his head. Interesting is someone had posted, apparently the Whitecaps had hired for this year, for the whole team, a sports psychologist who's worked with a number of really, really high-profile athletes. And I'm assuming for something like this would be working with Brian White, right? So I think that's
definitely. I mean, if you're a striker,
yeah,
you need that ego, that hunger to get out of slumps and score goals because that's what a striker does.
You need strikers to be selfish a little bit, right?
Yeah, so I say ego.
Yeah, no, that's a fair way to put it.
Yeah, I mean,
so like you said, they're back up in 5th, but 2-week break. I think the 2-week break with the international window happening right now is going to really help the Whitecaps in figuring out this new system, and basically give them 2 systems that they can go back and forth depending on who they're playing. They don't have a whole lot of players that are on international break right now.
Like the only one right now is Fafa Pico. And apparently he scored for Haiti.
Wasn't Kubas gone?
I think Kubas too, yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. I think they they have one of their players actually from the second team. The name's escaping me right now, but he's actually joined up with Gambia, I believe, for his first
Yeah.
call.
So the players that are and the coaching staff, just taking some time off, spending time with families and whatnot.
Yep.
But also helps them reset. Think about, what can we do better after the break? Because summer is a very important stretch. We've got a lot of games coming up. I think the break is coming at a good time, especially after straight wins.
They usually do. I find for the Whitecaps anyway, the breaks usually come at a time when they kind of need it.
Yeah, remember 2 years ago, there was a break because the Sounders won the championship.
Yep.
The CONCACAF Champions League at the time, final, and things looked much better from that point.
Things were pretty grim beforehand, but they took that week, they figured things out, and the summer was phenomenal.
Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs, but it was a much improvement from that 1-0-8 start or whatever it was.
Something like that, yeah.
1-1-7, actually. Yeah.
All right. Should we go on? Whitecaps are going to be playing Pacific FC in the Canadian Championship semifinal, a redo of, I don't know, what do we call that derby? Someone said the Ferry Side derby or something like
Ferry Side, yeah, because that was what that documentary was called, so I guess we might as well
makes sense.
Go with that because it makes sense.
The last time these two teams met
last year.
First of all, it was a little bit scary because that was where Ali Ahmed got injured.
Yeah.
But they did well. They kind of exercised a few demons that they needed to because the matches before that was DeSantis's firing.
Yep.
I think the Whitecaps and how they've been talking about this are right. It's weird. They feel like they don't necessarily deserve to still be in the tournament,
especially after that second leg against Calvary.
Exactly, but because they are here, they need to prove they do. And I think it's not just to everyone else in Canadian soccer, but to themselves as well, right? They know I was going to use a phrase I probably shouldn't, but they know that they have a lot to prove to themselves, and there's a lot of detractors out there right now. A lot of people don't think, though they look at the Whitecaps and they see the Whitecaps as a team for the taking.
Yeah, and Pacific haven't been doing too badly in CPL right now, though. As I mentioned, they're losing Ali and Dom. Really hurts their back line because it feels, as I said, he was like the heartbeat.
He's out for the season, isn't he?
And he's out for the season with torn ACL. I mean, 3-3-2 record in the CPL, 4th place. It's not bad. And
it's not bad. The one thing is they're weird. They don't score a lot of goals, but they let nothing in.
Yeah. 1-1 draw against Calvary last week at Starlight, and they're playing Halifax Wanderers. More on them later. Tomorrow. So, I mean, you got to try to figure out Pacific structure for the Whitecaps and just get as many goals past them as you can while maintaining their own structure.
This is one of those ones you have to put this one to bed. You have to put this one to bed definitively, so that when you come back,
it's 2 legs.
Not only that, but the final. If you make it to the final again, it's back at BC Place,
which is
that's what it was the last 2 times.
Yeah, and they had the chance to face Toronto FC in the final again or Forge.
And also, I just want to go to it again, so they should do it for me.
Yeah, do it for me. Do it for you. Do it for all of us in the media box.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right.
So the first leg of that is going to be in about a month. I think the date is still TBA.
Yeah.
And the second leg is not until significantly later, I believe.
Yeah, which is weird because you're like, oh, yay, we won the first leg or lost it. And then later, oh, yeah, we have the second leg. And it's been like a month.
Exactly. It's kind of a weird schedule. Yeah, it's not even officially scheduled yet. I think it's there's a date range of like 2 days where it can.
And the finals in September. Let's not forget.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get it. We've got a lot of summer competitions in North America, so
Yeah.
this year.
So the Whitecaps, I mean, where we're at in the season, if you showed us the record, okay, sure. Um, but of course it can be better. It
Absolutely.
always can be, but at least they're not having the silver lining is what they didn't have a bad start, but it was a bad month of May, but it's now June, the sun's out, it's getting warmer, and in 2 weeks the Whitecaps are off to Foxborough to play the New England Revolution. We'll preview that game next week
Yeah.
since um it's not in 2 weeks' time, but that's a game they should win because the New England Revolution have been one of the worst teams in MLS this season, though they did beat Nashville away last week.
Hey, surprises happen.
Yeah, surprises happen, and I'm not going to talk about this too much before we leave the Whitecaps, but this is just absolutely ridiculous. So it's been reported, and you probably saw this already. A fan has launched a lawsuit against the MLS and particularly the Whitecaps themselves over Messi not showing up for the game, with Inter Miami 2 weeks ago.
Yep. I'm
And
sorry. My first thought is this was a Beaverton article.
It's not, apparently. It's not from the Beaverton. Yeah, this is real. And LOL is what we all have to say. It's because courts have more important issues at hand right now. Way more important issues where people's lives are at stake, for example. And this just feels like a waste of time, a waste of energy. And oh yeah, he spent $400 on a soccer game between two teams, not a messy meet and greet.
Yep.
And oh, but I've been scammed. It's been misleading. Supply and demand. When demand goes up, prices go high. I don't know why people don't understand this.
This is, I don't know. As someone came up with a good analogy, right? If you take an airplane to go on a vacation, do you sue the airline because you had bad weather?
Yeah, that's the best analogy.
Right. You show up to a game, you don't get to decide the lineup as the fan. I'm sorry, I'm not even a fan. I don't know what this guy is. He's not a fan, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think this guy is a Whitecaps fan or a soccer fan like other people are in this town. But I mean, this is just. I mean, if I were a judge, just look at this and chuck this in the trash.
They're looking to open this up. They want to make it into a class action lawsuit.
Jesus.
So, I honestly don't think that this is going to go anywhere. I think
it shouldn't go anywhere.
It's someone getting their own publicity. It's someone being angry and believing that the world should
revolve around.
They are entitled to what they want.
Yeah, and
it's the entitlement of stupid people.
It's a sports game between multiple players, not just one player. And I don't know. Maybe I should sue the Canucks for not showing up to Game 7 first two periods. I don't know, something like that. But this is really dumb and a waste of. To me, this is a waste of the court's time and other people's time.
It's also a waste of our time. We've spent too much on it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the Whitecaps, and hopefully, things will get better for the second half. And before we leave, just want to say I hope Sam Adekugbe gets back to fitness for New England. And Vanny did tell Har that we'll see, and he was doing light work in the gym over the past week, so that's something.
Yeah. We know that he's being targeting for that New England game.
If not Portland.
Yeah.
So moving to the CPL, as we mentioned last week, Benjamin Mora was reportedly named the new head coach of York United, succeeding Martin Nash. Well, it's official now.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about who he was and kind of where he comes from. They've had, 1 or 2 games underneath him so far. There hasn't really been any big changes. I get it. You're still trying to learn who you have, what the personnel is. So I think you got to give it a little bit of time. But I still think with York, you're going to see some significant changes. And not only in just coaching style, but the kind and caliber of player that will eventually come into the club as well.
Yeah, and it's a 3-0 loss to Forge.
Yeah. Well, it's fortunate.
It's Forge, but still. And
Yeah.
I guess Moore is trying to see what he has, and the players are trying to adapt to whatever system he brings.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, this was always going to take time. It's not going to be an immediate success. And I believe these New Mexican owners are willing to give Mora the time to build his team.
I think that they're willing to give Mora quite a bit of time. I think I think they came into the club knowing they were going to make a managerial change. I do
And I
wonder
think
why they waited.
I just
But
what they wanted to see what they had with Nash.
maybe, but I mean, I think the rope that they gave Nash was already on fire before he started the season. So
Yeah, and
I think this was always going to happen.
I think the thing with these owners is that they knew it was going to take time for things to get better for York. So trying to be patient with Mora as much as possible. So Vancouver, speaking of, they went to Winnipeg to play Valor, and that was Valor's first game at home since they had to renovate the turf and all that.
Yeah.
But apparently this game was delayed quite a bit due to like rain or something, inclement
it was kind
weather.
of
But
it was quite a while too.
Yeah, and Valor got the win, 2-0 over Vancouver FC.
Much needed for Valor.
Yeah, and I guess like Vancouver had more chances, but only 4 were on target. While Valor had 5, and Jordan Swivel got 2 in 10 minutes in the 38th minute and 48th minute as well. And it's just from seeing what I did see, Vancouver didn't play that badly. Just in the end, weren't as clinical.
Yeah, Vancouver is. I mean, they're night and day in terms of what they've been able to do.
Night and day, home and away.
I
That
know,
kind of rhymes.
right? No, yeah, they're doing well. The one thing they need to worry about is defense. They are still leaky defense. In fact, for being in second place and having a 0 goal difference is a little worrying. I mean, honestly, you could drop to the bottom half of the table in this table based on one game.
Yeah, and if Vancouver got blown out by Valor, they would have dropped significantly.
Yeah, very much so. They would be in 5th.
Yeah, and
so I mean, it's
still
a
young
very
team
table, except for Atletico, who hasn't lost a game yet.
Yeah, and by the way, Halifax Wanderers are still winless because I was kind of watching this game. Atletico are up 2-0. I was like, oh, we're down 2-0. I was like, okay, Halifax, you can do it. You can do it. You can actually win a game. And then they get a man sent off. The guy who scored the second goal, Thiago Coimbra, got sent off. And then Atletico went to work. Ollie Bassett in the 84th minute. And deep into stoppage time, Alberto Zapater, actually, ties the game and saves a point for Atletico Ottawa. And this, too bad though. That would have been a great upset. And would have been a great way for Halifax to get their first win of the season. But fortunately, Coimbra got sent off, and the ship sank.
I gotta say, Patrice Guizar, you talked about Martin Nash being sacked. I do wonder how Patrice still has a job.
Yeah, because
8 games in and without a win,
not a single win
is. You were very lucky this league does not have relegation.
Yeah,
because you are staring it down, and the season is still relatively young.
But and I'm sure there are people out there covering and following the Wanderers more closely than us. But oh my goodness, they still haven't won a game, and it's June. I'm sure they had a man sent off against Atletico Ottawa, but blowing a 2-0 lead, come on. I'm sure, yes, it's Atletico Ottawa, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know, for me, every time I just look at the CPL table, I'm like, come on, Halifax, do something, win a game.
It's the meme of the thing, the guy poking with the stick, right?
Yeah, they've been kind of the meme of the CPL.
It's
look at them. So when I turned on the game, I was like, come on, Halifax, you can win. Blow a 2-0 lead.
I know.
Halifax, I swear to God. Come on, Wanderers.
And I don't believe that they're that bad of a side.
I don't think they are either.
The problem is I don't really know what the I think you've watched them a little bit more than I have, so I don't really know what the glaring issues are, or even if there really is glaring issues.
I think it's multiple of issues.
Small ones that kind of make up that, or build and build.
I mean, the 2 goals they scored against Atletico Ottawa were 2 beautiful counterattack goals, and I guess defending went out the window. Sure, it didn't help. They got a man sent off. I feel like they are the team that gave up the most goals. I mean, they have to be. No, Valor's given up more.
Yeah.
And York, too. I think that's one issue. And they have problems scoring, too.
Well, yeah.
6 goals in 7 games. So I guess those are the issues.
Not even one. Yeah. If you're getting less than 1 a game, that's pretty bad. I mean, yeah.
Like Halifax Wanderers, they swear. Like, just at least win a game.
All right, national teams. Let's start with the women first. They were playing their summer series, 2 games against Mexico. First game was on June 1st. It ended up a 2-1 win that took place in Montreal. Kind of an even first half. The catalyst of this game was Evelyn Veens. Came on as a substitute in the second half. Created both goals. Didn't get on the score sheet as a goal scorer, but she set up Leon and later on Whitecaps at the very, very end of the game. And again, just a very, very simple game and a very good a good test for what the women will face later on this summer heading into Paris.
Yeah, and overall, didn't see much of this game, but a solid win last Saturday in Montreal. And then they played Mexico again in Toronto. And this one ended in a 1-1 draw. And Kadisha Buchanan, the Chelsea player, she got a goal.
Yep.
And fortunately, Canada conceded late in the second half. I mean, it could have been more for Canada, but they weren't as clinical.
No. But did you see the I don't know what else to call it, but the body check on Jordan Huedma?
Yeah, I think that's the only way you can describe it.
And it was only a yellow card.
Yeah.
It was even to the point where the Mexican coach commented on it afterwards, just saying like, we apologize. We hope she's okay. I didn't see it because that's what coaches say. But
well, luckily Huedma was. So
she was. But I mean, it's not that often that you see someone running and then literally blown sideways.
Yeah, I think she got up pretty quickly. So
yeah.
18 shots, only 2 on target though.
Yeah.
Kind of concern.
That's the concern. The thing is Canada has an absolute phenomenal record. I believe with these 2 games in question, their record I think is 23-2-4, I believe.
Yeah.
Against Mexico all time. So I mean, but we're talking about Canada, 9th ranked team in the world, Mexico, 31st ranked team in the world. You expect, the higher ranked team in the world to have the better record. Their record is much better. Yeah. But Mexico, like many of the other women's national programs around the world, are growing by leaps and bounds. So the disparity between, say, like the top 10 and then, the next, say, 11 through to 40 has shrunk considerably.
Yes. I mean, Mexico's women's team hasn't reached the heights the men's team has yet, I'll say.
Yeah, and we all know the reason with that. If you don't invest in the team, that they're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, they could be good one day from what I've been reading. But Mexico is still quite some work to do with their women's team.
Yep.
And just for Canada in general, I mean, a lot to like from these 2 games, other than some poor finishing in the second one. But I feel pretty good heading into the Olympics, but that's going to be tough. Especially with the group Canada is in.
Yeah, it's definitely not the easiest. But I mean, Canada's got to go in there with expectations of going to a certain length. They want to be
champions, so why not?
They also want to get rid of the disappointment of the World Cup.
Yeah,
right. Like that was not a good
gold medal.
That was not a good tournament for several teams, right? The Women's World Cup was, I would say, a significant shock for a number of teams. You're going to have a resurgent women's team in the States as well.
Yeah, especially with Emma Hayes as their coach now.
Exactly. What is going to happen with her? Now, she doesn't have a whole lot of time to work with them. I don't think she needs a lot of time.
No.
Right? She's going to have that team. And the thing is the Americans they got kind of stung in the World Cup.
Yep,
they have something to prove. Like there's a chip on the shoulder right now, and you know what?
So do the Canadians.
The Canadians too, but I think the Americans even more so. The Americans walked into that tournament expecting that they were going to win before they played the first game.
Yep, and Canada, France, the hosts, Colombia, and New Zealand in their group for the Olympics in Paris. Tough group, especially Colombia. Like the past few years, they've been really rising.
Yes, but qualify out of the group. That is the bare minimum.
Yeah,
bare minimum. Qualify out of the group.
Bare minimum and go as deep as possible is the end goal. Try to defend that gold medal. Actually, defend that gold medal more than just try.
Yeah, we always want it back, right? Moving on, the men announced their roster. We talked about that. They also called up a late call up Tani Oluwasi,
Minnesota United,
Nigerian Canadian, plays for Minnesota United and has had kind of a breakout year for them. He got called up for his very first one alongside his teammate Dane Sinclair.
Yep.
And Canada had their first game against some pretty hefty opposition.
Against the Netherlands
in Rotterdam.
A tale of two halves.
Yeah,
a good way to say it. I mean, I only saw bits of this game because I was at work, but first half I did watch.
It was okay.
They were decent. Wingers were cutting in, fullbacks overlap. Pressing was high. Classic Jesse Marsh.
Yeah. Aside from one kind of breakout chance that Netherlands had, Canada held them quite well. Canada had a decent chance with Kyle Larin heading a ball just shy of the near post. But definitely the majority of chances came by Netherlands, but Canada dealt with it quite well. I would say the defensive partnership of Derek Cornelius and Moise Bombito was great to watch. They really worked well together. I will, even though the scoreline ended up 4-0, I will still say Derek Cornelius is probably my guy of the match.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just him. You saw a lot of changes in that second half. The high press was great to watch in the first half, but I questioned, even 10 minutes into the game, I was already writing saying, this isn't sustainable. So what are they going to do? What's the second phase? And there wasn't any.
There was no plan B.
Sat back. They went so compact that Netherlands had all the time in the world on the ball. The other thing is for the Netherlands, when they're making substitutions, their substitutions are bringing in Bergwijn, Van Dijk, bringing on was it Weghorst, right?
Yeah.
Their depth is world class. Canada's depth is not there yet. Yes, we've got some guys that can do a job. Schaffelberg coming on, he was okay. He tried to do what he could, but it was a different phase of the game. It didn't suit him. But Canada got exposed. The other thing is you started to notice Canada's in the first half, Canada's back line, you had the fullbacks bounding up forward because they were being very, very, quick with the ball, trying to transition very quickly and move up. When you no longer have the ball, Canada's back line was basically a line of four.
Yeah, because
if you want to get around a line of four, boop, over the top, easy.
Because the Netherlands were using the wide areas to expose Canada. Like Frimpong and Depay were all over them.
Frimpong blew. Oh man, I've talked about this before with the men's national team. For as much as I enjoy watching and understand the talent of Alphonso Davies,
he was again trying to do too much.
When Canada gets down, Alphonso Davies, for better or worse, tries to pick up the team on his back and do everything himself. You can't do that. You can't do the job of 10 guys. And unfortunately, it moved him out of position, which meant that other players had to come in behind. It left Cornelius exposed as the left pairing of the center backs. And all of a sudden, instead of having to watch just his area, he now has to watch his and Davies, because Davies is 20, 30 yards of pitch.
Yeah. The thing I noticed also, the high press in the first half, you had Canada going so high up that it left the Netherlands so much space to do the counterattack. And it proved right in the second half when that press was not sustainable and the Dutch just made use of that space.
Game. They waited until they were able to attack with their speed because they had conserved their energy. And Frimpong, just the goal and then the assist that he had, it was definitely the player of the match.
Yeah, and Sinclair had a good game, barring that error on the third goal, which led to, Wout Weghorst of all people scoring.
Hey, Weghorst in the last Olympics, or not Olympics, the last World Cup, he's an older guy, but he still can do, there's a reason he's on that team.
Yeah, and I don't know why. He's always better. He's one of those players better from the national team than the club.
Yeah. Some players become absolute beasts on national teams.
And I think this is a good learning lesson, not just for the players, but for Jesse Marsch too.
Yeah.
Like, they got a game in 2 days.
You have to remember this is the first game with Marsch. Now, there are some things that a lot of people have been screaming for that it seems like Marsch has fallen into familiar traps. We get that. All of those things I get. But if you're going to try, manager coming in and wanting to use his system, I get it, right? He's using what he knows right now and trying to fit players within that. Now that he's actually seen it in a competitive environment, he can start to tweak it. So I think anyone who came into this match thinking that Canada was going to win,
they're wrong.
Well, not only that, but you're going to win in Netherlands against Netherlands. It wasn't going to happen. But what you wanted is you wanted Canada to be competitive. And for 45, 50 minutes,
they were competitive.
You can be reasonably happy with what you saw. What Canada did is not sustainable. They need to find ways to adapt as the game transitions. That is the big glaring mistake right now. And they need to understand the different phases of the game because it wasn't there.
And that's also my point on Marsch, a learning lesson for him, like his adaptation to the game, not just him, but the players as well. Because as the game goes on, circumstances change, especially against your opponent. And with France coming up, we know that's going to be even harder.
France is going to be even more so.
Yeah.
And again, that game is in France. So you're still playing in the same kind of hostile environment, right? You're playing against one of the top teams in the world in their backyard.
Yeah, and I like pressing. People who know me love the press, but you can't do it for 90 minutes.
No,
especially that much.
Yeah.
So, there needs to be ways for Marsch and the players to adapt to France in a few days, like on Sunday, which is kind of hard to believe.
I do wonder if he's going to try something different. Whether he goes to a triangle midfield or something, plays wingers higher up, which allows for fullbacks to really, really have a lot more space to kind of bound up and down the sides. Maybe that helps unlock Davies, who I don't, for as much as people want, I include myself, I don't know. I don't believe he is going to be taken out of that left back position. I think he's going to remain there.
Given that Marsch likes to have him overlap, I think he's staying there for the time being.
Also, you need someone against the Dutch, against the French, that can be that is very strong defensively in that role, and for as much as we love him going forward, he is your guy, right? It's not the pretty work, but he's your guy.
I mean, Canada nearly opened the scoring late in the first half, but Laren shot it wide. Oh, great patience by Coney and David on that, though. So
I
again,
liked Kone and Estacchio as well.
yeah,
I did like I do think that they would be helped out or unshackled a little bit with a third guy, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting to see what Marsh does if he decides to double down on what they did in the first game and just say like, no, we need to actually practice this and go with this, and then we can start to play around, or if he tries to experiment a little bit. Um,
Now's the time for experimenting since these
I
are
would
early
like him to
friendlies.
experiment. He might not, especially just with Copa coming up so fast.
Yeah, and good thing this was friendly against Netherlands, not against Argentina
Yeah,
in Copa. So, thing with these
which
friendlies
is
is
the
that you
very
can,
first game. I mean, that game's literally opening the tournament.
yeah, and these two games are learning opportunities for Marsh and Canada.
Yeah,
So it helps them grow before Copa.
yeah, absolutely.
Quickly here, the Northern Super League, Calgary and Toronto have unveiled their crests and colors for their teams.
Yeah, you check them out. They're online. The badges, I like Calgary's. I'll say
Ah,
that
yeah,
right
me
now.
too.
Calgary's is very very sharp. I like
Let's take
Toronto's
a
as
look at
well.
it.
Toronto's is very simple. Basically the T with the different lines. The color scheme for Toronto's I feel gets lost a little bit.
Yeah,
For
but
someone who might not
Calgary,
see colors all that well, they kind of end up blending together a little bit, which is difficult. It ends up being a little bit difficult to see the differences.
I really like Calgary's badge. Calgary Wild FC, their name.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
like an
think
angry
Calgary
bird.
did quite well on theirs.
Yeah, it reminds me of Angry Birds in a good way.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, red is a really good color to represent Calgary. I mean, all their other sports teams have red, so why not?
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's very true.
And kind of similar colors for AFC Toronto. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
I mean, and
I find that Calgary's are more contrasting though. I'm able
yeah,
to pick up the differences where with Toronto's I actually struggle a little bit.
yeah. Just looking at it now, it's like a T in
Yeah.
Toronto. It kind of looks like a street in a way.
The different lines on it, they actually said it's the lines are for the same number of lines of the boroughs of Toronto and then one for the city itself, I believe it was. You can go and take a look. They actually
Yeah, that's what I was
outline,
thinking. I had a
yeah,
feeling
they
those lines
outlined
represented
what the
something.
crest or what it represents and whatnot. And yeah, it does a good job. Of course,
Yeah,
it's not
and
just colors of red and maroon. It's like victory something and
Victory Red.
whatever. Yeah, it's like every team apparently reinvents the color wheel.
Yeah, so that's the first developments for the Northern Super League. Well, first of many
Yeah,
developments, rather.
still waiting
And
to see what
hopefully,
the other four teams are going to unveil as their crests and colors, including Vancouver, who has alluded to the fact that they want something different than the Whitecaps.
yeah, which is
They want something unique for the women's team, which I think is really interesting.
yeah, and we'll see
Yeah.
what they do. So
All right.
let's move over
Silly
to Europe.
season.
But first, a signing for Chelsea. I didn't expect one to be this quickly, and it's a center back. His name is Tosin Adarabayobioyo. Kind of a handful to say. And he signs for
Idara
free.
Bio,
Yeah, Adarabayio from
I
Fulham.
believe. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, both Spurs and Newcastle were trying to sign this guy last year.
yep. And this is actually a savvy move. Good signing. They need another center back since Thiago Silva's gone, and it seems likely Trevor Chalobah will be on his way out. Manchester born, but he did play through the Man City Academy once upon a time, but never played a first team game there. So I assume there's connections with Joe Shields, the director of recruitment, and I possibly Enzo Maresca as well. And made his name for himself at Fulham, and he's fast. He's good in the air. A ball playing center back. Think of a better, bigger Bjorn Inge Undvik. that's pretty much what Adarabioyo is. And
He's the sort of player that I wanted, and I wish we would have got last year.
yeah, 6'5". So this guy is towering. He's taller than Ranko Veselinovic.
That's not tall.
Yeah, well, not for you. And he is a threat on set pieces on both ends. So, pretty much what they need and what Maresca needs for his system, and I like it. And it's a 4-year contract, and we'll see what he can do. Now it's rumor time.
Yeah, speed round on rumors. I'll do the same.
Yeah, so Maresca has reportedly wants Robert Sanchez to stay at the club because in his system he wants a goalkeeper that is good with his feet. Now Robert Sanchez, his shot stopping's decent, but they say he's good with his feet. But last season, his distribution was pretty poor. Like remember that Arsenal game where he pretty much blew the game by giving the ball to Declan Rice. A game against Brighton, I remember he just kept passing to Brighton players. So while he has the instincts, it's his concentration, like his brain farts, that bring him down because he has the tools of being a good Premier League goalkeeper. And that's pretty much why he was dropped by De Zerbi at Brighton.
Okay.
It's risky, but I really don't think this guy is a starter on a team like Chelsea. On a Brighton, definitely. And Petrovic, despite what the underlying numbers say, was decent coming in for Sanchez. And sure, he needs to be better at the near post, but the shot-stopping numbers for Petrovic were slightly better, but not by much. And I would much rather have them sign a starting caliber goalkeeper or stick with Petrovic because Petrovic has the makings of a great number one goalkeeper. But I'm not a fan if Sanchez stays, but just prove me wrong. And then Michael Olise of Crystal Palace. Chelsea tried to sign him last year, but he pulled out the last second and signed an extension with Crystal Palace. French winger, I believe 22, 23 years old, has been one of the best wingers in the EPL for a couple of years now, especially last year, despite his injury record. And number 10, he can play both wings. He's left-footed, knows how to beat defenders one-on-one, great passer. He's fast. Oh, but sure, Chelsea could be loaded with wingers with Madueke, with Mudryk, Nkunku can play there, Palmer can play there. But it feels like a player that Maresca needs, like especially if he wants his wingers to win the ball back and cut in, because Olise can do just that. Not going to be cheap though, and Manchester United is also a team that's after Olise. But as of now, it seems like Chelsea are the slight favorites. And we'll see what happens. And also, Joe Shields has been an advocate rather, of Olise. And by the way, he was the one that helped bring Cole Palmer and Romeo Lavia to the club. So big credits to Joe Shields. And then a striker. Chelsea have been linked, along with Arsenal and Man United, with Benjamin Sesko of RB Leipzig. 19-year-old striker. I think he's going to turn 20 soon. Or he has just turned 20. Good in the air. Good finisher. Looks like a player that is on the verge of breaking out. And has similar underlying numbers to Nicholas Jackson. Oh, sorry, he's 21. Just turned 21. But apparently, from what I've been reading, Sesko's decision-making is what's holding him back. Kind of like Nicholas Jackson. And
There's a lot of
Sesko is...
people looking at Sesko, though.
Yeah, because it just feels like this is a guy that's on the verge of breaking out. 6'5".
Yeah.
By the way.
I think he's moving somewhere. I don't know where, but he's moving.
Yeah, a lot of teams are after him. It feels like Arsenal might be the front runner right now, but they're battling with Chelsea and United. But apparently, that's not the only striker they're going after. This one, as much as intriguing as Sesko is, this one is even more. Manchester City's Julian Alvarez, who has won pretty much every trophy imaginable at 24. 11 goals last season. Can play striker and play winger. Not as tall as Sesko. Not as great in the air as Sesko, but the way Chelsea been playing, it's about low crosses and scoring from the build-up. Alvarez is only 5'7", by the way. That's 2 inches taller than me. But people are saying, oh, he doesn't, he's not as big. He ghosts a lot. I mean, like, kind of is true, but he hasn't played as much as he wants because who's on the depth chart above him?
Yeah.
Erling Haaland. And apparently, the rumor is he has told Pep that he wants more playing time or he'll go somewhere else where he can get more playing time. And Alvarez is a smart player. He's good at passing and knows where to be when it comes to runs on the build-up. And there's connections here. He did work under Maresca. He was a teammate of Cole Palmer's, and he's close friends with Enzo Fernandez with the Argentinian national team. Something. I don't know if he'd want to join Chelsea. But if he's willing, it's probably going to be a big fee, given the fact that he actually just signed a contract extension. So I'm not really too sure if I'd like Chelsea to splash on Julian Alvarez, but it feels like this is a player that with more game time, if he was the number one striker, he could really be something more than what he actually is. And it's being reported Joe Shields is working on this deal. Again, bravo Joe Shields. In terms of outgoings quickly, Conor Gallagher, The Guardian, The Athletic, they're reporting that Chelsea want $50 million for him, which I think is kind of steep. But given the fact that Gallagher is an England international, he's played pretty much every game, shows good underlying numbers, and the fact
a year
that
left in his contract, though.
Yeah, but the thing, a year left on his contract.
I mean,
kind of steep.
The rumor is that last year he could have gone for 40. What's happened to jack that up by 10 million with less than a year left on the contract?
He's been better this year. That's something.
Yeah, but what you're paying for isn't as long. So
yeah, and Atletico Madrid, Tottenham, and Aston Villa, like pretty much all the front runners, are knocking on the door. I like Conor Gallagher. I like what he brings. He's kind of like a Alessandro Schaff type player. He isn't, the problem with him, he isn't technical. He isn't creative, but he can be at times.
Yeah.
He can score bangers, but he's a workhorse. Tackles, winning fouls, running. And as I said before, like if Chelsea were to be a title contender, I don't think he starts on this team. Because he's a good squad guy. Nothing wrong with that, though. You need a good squad guy, and Conor Gallagher is good for that guy. But I feel like with this fan base for Chelsea, some overrate him, some overhate him. So he's a very polarizing player.
Right.
If you can get $50 million for him, by all means, use that to buy other players, like I don't know, like a Sesko or Elise or Alvarez. I don't want him to go to Tottenham though, because connection. He's a Cobham boy. Atletico would be interesting because I think he'd fit under Simeone.
Yeah.
Aston Villa too, under Unai Emery.
Emery's cooking.
But the thing with Conor Gallagher is he isn't really rushing to move anywhere. He could pretty much play out the rest of his contract and leave for free. Wouldn't be good business for Chelsea though. And Chelsea do want to keep him around. Well, Pochettino did, apparently. And looks like with Stanley and Stewart, kind of want to unload him. And sure, he has his issues, but if it were up to me, I'd like him to stay. But if you can get a good fee, why not? And you can't really get attached to anyone as much. It's it's kind of hard to do, but maybe somewhere else would be better for Conor Gallagher. But if he wants to stay, by all means. But we'll see what happens with him. And Lukaku, Chelsea want him sold for a 38 million release clause. No more loans. Saudi Pro League wants him. Mourinho, who is the new Fenerbahce manager, more on him later, wants him. Conte, who just joined Napoli, wants him. So just get him off the books so they could use that money to buy players. And yes, it's obvious. I want Lukaku gone. No more loans. Doesn't want to be at Chelsea. Might as well let him leave. Conor Gallagher kind of does want to be at Chelsea. He does. So, unless he can get a good fee, let him stay. So that's Chelsea. No signings yet for Tottenham, but it's still rumor season.
Still rumor season. A lot of players have left the club, and we're still talking an investment. We'll start there. A group called MSP Sports Capital is rumored to be interested in a 40% stake in Spurs. Levy has kind of downplayed that a little bit, but I mean, these guys are legit. They actually have a portfolio that includes Brøndby in Norway, FC Augsburg in Germany. Who else do they also? Estoril Praia in Portugal, and amongst a few other clubs. Alcaron, SAD in the lower tiers of Spain. So, I mean, they've talked about investment. They've talked about wanting to, increase the money coming into Spurs. If this is the way, this is one thing that could possibly be to do it. Have to wait and see. I mean, they had other groups looking at Spurs earlier on, and that kind of fell by the wayside. This could be much ado about nothing. Other than that, some interesting news as well. Chris Davies, assistant coach under Pochettino, has left the club. He's actually going to be taking over the head managerial job at Birmingham. So going straight into the fire with that one. It'll be interesting to see what he can do, whether or not he can revitalize I don't know if you'd call them a fallen giant, but I remember when Birmingham was in the Premier League, so I have to wait and see.
I do too. Yeah.
Lucas Bergvall plays for in Sweden right now on Djurgården. Was bought by Spurs last year, was loaned back. He's up for the Golden Boy award.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you take a look at this. Like, this guy is considered an absolute wonder kid midfielder. What this kid can do at 18 will blow your mind. I think he slots right into a starting 11, possibly with Spurs, for what he can do. Or he's going to be in the squad. He's not getting loaned out. He's going to be in the squad.
Well, but it sounds like he did pretty well for himself in Sweden to be nominated for the Golden Boy, so he should be.
When Spurs got him in Sweden, I think it was something like 5 clubs in England were after him. You had Real Madrid. You had all the big clubs in Europe after this kid. He went with Spurs because he said they were one of the few clubs who actually came to us and talked to my family and kind of really, really told us what the reason is why they wanted him and what his role would be. So they definitely wooed him in order to bring him in. So now the hope is that it pays off. Yeah. Okay. Silly season stuff. So 4 contracts have ended and players have now been officially released. Japhet Tanganga, Ryan Sessegnon, Eric Dyer, even Perisic. So Perisic, we knew he was on loan to Croatia. He's already actually signed a contract in Croatia. Like, we knew that one was done. Eric Dyer, we knew it was done. Whether or not he stays at Bayern Munich, I don't know. Tanganga has gone out on loan a number of times. Yep. This was a player I wanted to work out. A homegrown center back would have been great. Didn't work out. So unfortunately, he's gone. I think he spent his last year in Germany. So we'll have to wait and see if he decides to stay there, or I don't know, maybe his championship level, lower level Premier League. We'll have to wait and see. Ryan Sessegnon, another guy. He had a great loan spell at Hoffenheim in Germany. Came back, kind of in and out of the squad, got injured, never really found his way back in. Basically, the Spurs have had trouble filling the left side of the pitch and they still do. But the players that they had, Perisic and Sassignon, both gone. Ben Davies looks like he's going to be gone. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do with that. Other than that, one guy that they did re-sign, or at least I think they exercised an option, was Joe Rondon, center back, Welsh international. He was out on loan again, but he's a guy they do rate, and they do want to see him continue to develop. I think he's a guy that could start fighting for some of those spots, especially if they're going to continue going with a back three. We'll have to wait and see. Other than that, the rumor mill, Ebechi Easy.
Yep.
Crystal Palace has been rumored to be gone at some point. Spurs are top of possibly signing him. There is what they call an apparent gentleman's agreement for him to leave the club this summer. But if you're a Spurs fan, you know how well apparent gentleman's agreements work out. Look what happened with Harry Kane the year before he left, where he thought he had a gentleman's agreement with Levy, and nothing materialized of that. Jed Spence has now completed his loan spell at Genoa. There is a buying option, and it looks like Genoa is interested, but they don't want it for as expensive as the option is. They're trying to negotiate to lower the fee a little bit. I think Spurs are fine with it. They don't see a future with Spence. I think a lot of it had to do with attitude, unfortunately.
That's what I'm reading.
Yeah. Alejo Veliz, a player that they got from Argentina, looks like he's going to be going out on loan for the upcoming season. He had a couple in and around, and then he ended up getting a horrible injury, never really made it back. So if he can go get his fitness back, get a loan somewhere, get back to his playing ability of why Spurs bought him in the first place, I think that would be great for him. On top of it, as a striker, he's not the guy. If there's ever going to be a guy that they're going to look at that comes from within the club right now, it would be Troy Parrott. And Parrott's another guy that is what they're going to do with him is up in the air. He's with the Irish national team right now, doing well. He just scored with them, so I have to wait and see what happens with him. Job Bellingham, not Jude.
Brother Jude.
Job Bellingham has been piquing a lot of interest from various clubs. He's got a £20 million fee likely attached to him. Spurs are one of the guys kicking tires. They're kicking tires on a lot of midfielders, so we'll have to wait and see. Conor Gallagher, which we talked about, Spurs have been interested in him for over a year. Have to wait and see if they decide to do anything with that. But they've also started to look at Fulham midfielder Andreas Pereira.
Yep.
So
That's
again,
a name I see being thrown around a lot.
they're looking at a lot of midfielders. They're only really going to look at probably one, but midfielder, winger, striker, high on the list of what Spurs want to look at this year. Out of Scotland, Celtic prospect Daniel Kelly. Apparently, he's also got interest from Man United and Bayern Munich.
Yep.
Let's see about that. And then a few guys looking out the door. Apparently, Højbjerg has interest still about going to places. I know Atletico Madrid was looking at him last year. Apparently now with Mourinho gone to Fenerbahce, he wants to bring Højbjerg over to where he is. Be interesting to see if that happens. And then AC Milan is looking at Emerson Royal. AC Milan also, I think, just hired a brand new head coach, so we'll have to wait and see if he is interested in Royal. But about a 20 million euro fee is likely for that. Other than that, there are two other players that Spurs have been looking at. One of them they've been attached to for about the past year, and that's Marcus Edwards. Plays in Portugal right now, has done really well there. He's homegrown for Spurs. That's the thing. And if they go after him, they can get him basically on a 35% discount, I believe. The other one is Kyle Walker-Peters, right back. And if Emerson goes, Walker-Peters could be a guy they bring in. Another guy, homegrown for Spurs. Spurs need a homegrown guy for European registration purposes. I don't know if this is the way they're going. A lot of people were talking about, well, what about Papa Mathesar? They brought him in when he was 18. Wouldn't he count? But they loaned him out. And because they loaned him out, he doesn't qualify. So they do need to bring in someone who counts as one of those 4 players. I think if anyone, they look at Marcus Edwards. The only thing is do you want to spend that for a guy who at this point would basically be a squad player? I don't know. But I think out of these 2 players, Edwards is the one guy who could fight for a spot. If Royale leaves, do they do a switch and bring in Walker Peters for that? Don't know. But right now, it's the silly season, and rumors fly for free. So,
yep, always silly season around this time, and rumors just always fly.
Yeah. Anyway, so we did just mention Mourinho has gone to Fenerbahce. Kind of
gave a good speech.
Surprise appointment. Yeah. Good speech. I wear the shirt underneath, close to my skin, sort of thing. And Conte to Napoli, which should surprise absolutely no one.
Yeah, and imagine Mourinho as a politician.
Yeah.
Good thing.
Interesting. Both of these managers, their last job was Spurs.
In England, yeah.
In England. So that's what we're doing. We're just franchising.
Yeah, and also here, Greenland has played their first match since 2013, a friendly against Turkmenistan, a 5-0 loss, though.
So we talked about Greenland last week, about them officially applying for CONCACAF. They are trying to kind of raise their profile a little bit. Yeah, so first friendly after a while. From what I heard, it was an interesting match. There are some pictures going around. I haven't really seen any video, but yeah, I mean, good on them.
Yeah.
So Real Madrid did stuff this week.
Yeah, they've won the Champions League for the 15th time, to the point where they're running out of space in their trophy cabinet.
I think they've won the Champions League the same time as every English club combined.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think it is.
And Barcelona have won less than half of Real Madrid's Champions Leagues.
Yep.
And not only that, a day later,
they signed this guy.
They signed this Kylian Mbappe guy, who least surprising transfer ever.
I love their release. One sentence.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's all it took.
That's all Real Madrid needs. We are bigger than the club is bigger than everyone.
I mean, yeah, they literally are bigger than everyone. And now look at this squad: Rudiger, hopefully a fully fit Courtois, Valverde, Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham, Modric's still there, and now they're adding Mbappe and Endrick this summer.
I know. I don't know if Modric is going to still be there. We'll have to wait and see. I think his contract. I think he has an option, but I think his contract could allow him to leave if he decides. I don't know. He still does a job though, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a super team basically with Mbappe.
Oh, I know.
And they might as well hand the Champions League to them next year, because it just feels like they're destined to repeat.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and this is weird. Like, soccer's full of weird stuff, but this is also in the category of just weird. Equatorial Guinea, their captain Emilio Nuse, is ruled by FIFA to have never been eligible for them.
Yeah, so this is a weird one. He actually played 11 years his international career. He actually won the Golden Boot in the African Cup of Nations earlier this year with five goals in 4 appearances. In December of 2013, 11 years ago, like literally when he started, he was ruled not eligible to play back then because he had actually had several appearances for Spain's youth teams. But he decided, what does FIFA know? He represented Equatorial Guinea anyway. So FIFA launched an investigation. He was given 6 days to respond. He never did. They've now published a 15-page ruling. They have stripped Equatorial Guinea of their 2026 World Cup qualification victories against Namibia and Liberia, both of which they won thanks to goals by Nassau, because they were 1-0 wins. Both of the opponents, Namibia and Liberia, have been awarded 3-0 victories, so basically the same like a forfeiture.
Yep.
Nassau has been banned from all international football for 6 months. The country's federation has been fined One 150,000 Swiss francs, basically 164,000 American. And yeah, like it, hey, it's football. We get bizarre stories all the time. So here's another one for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know where this goes. We'll see what.
The guide's been banned. Equatorial Guinea is, well, I mean, they probably were unlikely to make the World Cup anyway out of Africa, but with the increased tournament and the fact that they'd won 2 games already, who knows? Definitely ain't happening now.
Yeah. So, last thing here. The Premier League has voted 19-1 in favor of keeping VAR. The only team that held out was Wolverhampton Wanderers. They've also agreed.
They're the ones who put the application in the first place,
which is something.
Yeah.
And the PL has also agreed to a trial cap that's voluntary. No idea what that means.
Yeah.
And they're allowed to spend no more than 85% of their total revenues on squads.
Which is fine. I mean, it's kind of an interesting idea to bring in a cap. I think it's much easier to understand than FFP. We can talk about FFP. Apparently, Manchester City has now sued the league over it. So
yeah, even though they've won the damn thing past 4 years.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is there was someone, a legal mind, who did a deep dive into the leaked emails that Der Spiegel out of Germany had put in. Showed how UEFA completely messed up their case because they decided to only go with like 15 of the emails rather than the gigabytes of stuff out there. Well, this is a completely different case. This is one in England. This is with the league. The fact that they are now suing the league makes me think that the ramifications for guilty
and the 115 charges
is relegation.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Because Manchester City is also rumored that if they are found guilty, are fine with leaving the English pyramid and rejoining the European Super League.
Yes.
Which means that they would now be one of 3 teams since Juventus has pulled out.
Yeah, I think it's them and the Spanish teams.
Yeah, which, like, what do you want to do? Play for the stupidest trophy in the world? I mean, you're going to have to take that title away from League's Cup and MLS and Liga MX, but, hey, it's there. It's there for the taking.
Yep. Sure. So that'll conclude this week's episode. Tell us what we're doing right, tell us what we're doing wrong. Jam-Pack 1, Joshua Ray 00 on Twitter, Nathan is at Enduric. Podcast is at Terminal City FC. Check out all our writings for the Area 51 Sports Network. We'll continue to cover not just the Whitecaps, but Euros, Copa America with Canada, Olympics with Canadian women, and any other soccer stuff that comes to mind.
Yeah.
So that'll conclude this week's episode. Peace out.
Take care.